This video is prepared for members of the Alachua County Environmental Protection Advisory Committee, or EPAC, a citizens committee formed by the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners. A folder labeled Geoengineering contains files related to the history and application of climate modification. Before noon on Tuesday, November 24, 2015, this unusual sky appeared over our home in Gainesville. I noticed two persistent contrails that began and terminated with an abrupt start and stop appearance, an observation that strongly suggests these trails are not formed as a result of water vapor from jet engine exhaust. Additionally, it makes no sense that only two contrails should appear in a sky already transitioned by numerous aircraft departing a dozen busy airports just 2 days before Thanksgiving. Also, the strange-looking mare's tail clouds caused the sky to appear even more surreal alongside persistent contrails that should not exist based on unfavorably dry atmospheric conditions above 30,000 feet. One explanation for the appearance of numerous artificial clouds is found in this Evergreen Air 747 tanker, with a delivery system explicitly listed as capable of dumping weather modification aerosols high in the atmosphere. Here's an excerpt from a 2009 Evergreen Air promotional video.
Complete.
Innovation has been Evergreen's hallmark. Evergreen's goal is to conduct air tanker operations at night while fires are most vulnerable. By utilizing the 747's advanced avionics, new night imaging technology, and the supertanker's state-of-the-art delivery system allowing for higher drop altitudes, this landmark achievement is on the horizon. Yet the Evergreen supertanker can do even more. It's capable of responding on a moment's notice to various homeland security and environmental concerns. Able to carry chemical neutralizers, the Evergreen supertanker is large enough to neutralize a chemical or biological attack on a major population center or military battlefield. Weather modification and ocean fertilization are also viable missions within the capability of the supertanker. The versatile tank system and nozzle configuration allows different agents to be dispersed at multiple pressures, all depending on a mission-specific circumstance. The Evergreen supertanker is also an ideal tool for oil spill containment and dispersal. Since 1970, there have been over 1,900 major oil spills. Containment could be streamlined with the supertanker's large drop capabilities and versatile agent delivery system. The Evergreen supertanker, on the leading edge of protecting the world's valuable resources.
So Evergreen's sophisticated system can operate at night to deploy any type of chemical agent, including weather modification aerosols, which are best dumped under cover of darkness over oceans in the Gulf of Mexico and out of the reach of observers with cameras to document the event. Despite several consecutive years of raging wildfires in the western United States, Evergreen Air was not able to secure a government firefighting contract and filed for voluntary bankruptcy in January of 2014. Then in August of 2015, a new company, Global Super Tanker Services LLC, announced they will use the Evergreen Air patent in an updated version of the 747 supertanker for the purpose of securing contracts that not only serve the United States Forest Service, but reach out beyond the borders of the United States to capture a global market for the alleged purpose of fighting fires or possibly even spraying weather modification aerosols. Let's stop here for a moment and return to the observation of November 24th at Northwest 6th Street near University Avenue at about 10 minutes after noon. By 12 o'clock, the strangeness in the sky has increased. Several persistent contrails are seen spreading and crisscrossing each other in an unnatural way that would never be permitted by civilian FAA flight rules. The thinner persistent trails are clearly seen with an abrupt and blunt start point, while the surrounding clouds appear wispy and artificial. The washboard appearance of the sky is unnatural and probably a piezoelectric reaction to induced radio frequency or sonic frequency energy directed at the cloud layer. The visible line of disturbance in the cloud layer is most likely a wake vortices created by an unrelated secondary aircraft that travel through the already established artificial cloud layer. The bizarre layer of aerosols appears as a curtain against the sun. Panning to the northeast, a persistent contrail with an unnatural start and stop gap is seen on the horizon. The NASA Worldview satellite images captured within an hour of my video reveal several wide persistent contrails that appear to selectively target the area of North Florida. Moving into the Gulf of Mexico reveals a long line of aerosols and mare's tail cloud formations. These trails are typical of what can be delivered by a few tanker aircraft fitted with a patented evergreen air chemical disbursement system. The official high-altitude atmospheric measurements for November 24th and the 25th show conditions of relative humidity above 30,000 feet to be too dry for persistent contrail formation. On the next day, November 25th, the sky was completely clear of clouds, even though the official high-altitude data reported conditions of relative humidity essentially the same as on the 24th. Let's now return to the intrigue of the Evergreen Air patent, now owned by a new startup corporation determined to go global. The business motto on the Global Supertanker Services website says, quote, "The most cost-effective and capable force multiplier found anywhere," unquote. The term force multiplier rings a loud bell because it's found in the United States Air Force document Weather as a Force Multiplier Owning the Weather in 2025. Much of the inspiration for the United States Air Force Owning the Weather document comes from Dr. Bill Gray at the University of Colorado. In 1974, Dr. Gray was lead author on a paper called Weather Modification by Carbon Dust Absorption of Solar Energy. The paper basically recommends experiments that spray carbon dust into the atmosphere in order to control the weather. Dr. Gray, who is famous for forecasting hurricanes, is a professor emeritus at the University of Colorado and spent his early years as a forecaster for the United States Air Force. By coincidence or not, Global Supertanker Services is located in Colorado Springs, in the vicinity of Dr. Gray at the University of Colorado, Shriver and Patterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs. These proximities of similar interests appear to be a force multiplier unto themselves. The Department of Defense definition of force multiplier is, quote, "a capability that, when added to and employed by a combat force, significantly increases the combat potential of that force, and thus enhances the probability of successful mission accomplishment," unquote. Dr. Gray's 1974 paper to experiment with carbon black demonstrates that spraying aerosols to control the weather is not a new concept. A 2009 study, Hurricane Atmosphere Microphysics Program, or HAMP, used computer models to determine how aerosols could be sprayed inside tropical cyclones to control intensity, up or down. It was found that carbon black was very effective at increasing the intensity of hurricanes, while spraying other aerosols at the perimeter could weaken the circulation. The study was headed by former NOAA head Joe Golden and sponsored by NOAA and the Department of Homeland Security. A short excerpt from Dr. Golden's 2010 presentation to the American Meteorological Society reveals the connection of carbon black to intensification of tropical cyclones and hurricanes.
So the initial work you're going to hear about today is primarily looking at the role of very small submicron-sized aerosols in tropical clouds and tropical cyclones. It turns out that some of our modeling results in HAMP are quite surprising in that regard, and that under certain circumstances, carbon black may actually increase hurricane intensity. And I'll let Professor Rosenfeld tell you more about that.
Of course, the HAMP concepts of carbon black are really nothing new and are borrowed from Dr. Bill Gray's 1974 publication, Weather Modification by Carbon Dust Absorption of Solar Energy. Project Cirrus is popularly remembered as a hurricane modification experiment that went wrong and came ashore at Savannah, Georgia, after the military seeded the clouds with crushed dry ice on October 13th, 1947. But a closer look at the research behind Project Cirrus reveals great interest in aerosols. A quick method is to perform a search for the word aerosol. The weather modification website reminds us that using aircraft to spray chemicals in order to modify the weather is an accepted industry. Licensed aircraft operators can spray chemicals without requirement to notify the public. Florida is one of many states that permit weather modification by law. So the question must finally be asked, in view of the skyrocketing growth in the industry, why has weather modification not been identified as a source of climate change? Perhaps it's because asking such a question is uncomfortable to the sponsors of the covert climate modification program going on high in the skies, miles higher than the old school weather modification that uses silver iodide to seed rain clouds. Similar to the secrecy required during the Manhattan Project, governments and their agencies and even academics are in a lockdown denial about the weather manipulation most observers can readily detect with their own eyes. Therefore, the stone wall of deceit and secrecy must be maintained, for if the government and the media acknowledged that a climate modification program had secretly been in place for the past 30 years, the scandal would terminally invalidate almost every finding and future policy embraced by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The bottom line issue is the human health effects of these weather modification metal particulates as they contaminate the breathable air in our environment. Many observers have submitted rainwater samples to EPA-approved labs with the results that show heavy metals and mobile aluminum associated with chemical spraying. A graph of aluminum found in rainwater in Alachua County is seen here. Dr. Russell Blaylock, a neurologist who acknowledges the covert aerosol spraying program, published an article on the effects of nanoaluminum on the human brain as a precursor to dementia and Alzheimer's. Blaylock is convinced the spraying program should be stopped immediately to prevent an impending global health disaster. In conclusion, I bring this issue to the Alachua County Environmental Protection Advisory Committee as an emergent issue of health, welfare, and environmental protection. This presentation provides only a glimpse into the big picture of covert aerosol spraying and related eco-weapons. Pilots, scientists, and qualified investigators in several countries are working to elevate public awareness while government agencies and the media continue to deny the obvious violations of informed consent in this toxic experiment in our skies. I now look to the EPAC chairperson with suggestions on how to proceed with an investigation into the consequences of chemical deployment in the skies over Alachua County that ultimately degrade the health and welfare of its citizens.